Greetings, everyone. Good afternoon. Happy Wellness Wednesday. And welcome to another in the series, the JN Circle Thrive Together Life class. This is week number 6. We're running through, and we have another amazing session lined up for you. This evening's topic is parenting, and I invite you all to grab a friend, right? Send a link to someone that you care about, invite them to come on. It's going to be another power-packed, information-heavy, super warm, engaging space in our conversation this evening. Now, before I introduce our panelists, let me just get some housekeeping matters out of the way. And as usual, I'm going to be sharing screen so that we can all see and follow along. All right, so this is our new normal. Let me pull up the share screen feature. There we have it. So our topic again is parenting, motherhood, fatherhood, and otherhood. And we know that many of you have been asking the question, what on earth does otherhood even refer to? Stay tuned, we're going to explain it in a few minutes, all right? Now, as usual, I would love to introduce you to a couple, well, all of our panelists. Let me tell you who's joining us today. We have the amazing Serika Sterling. She's the founder and manager of the Preemie Foundation. Greetings, Serika. We also have IT and Karen Ellis, actor and comedian, that's IT, and bookings and events executive. Welcome on to the Ellises. Let the audience see your beautiful faces. We also have Noran Price. He's a graphic designer, and he is no stranger to the life class space. You saw him in season 1, and he was amazing on the 2 sessions that he showed up for. And we're also so happy to be joined this evening by Devon and Sophia Wilkie. And they're going to be talking to us as energy executives, right? And you'll hear more of their stories later on in the class. Now, please, as I mentioned, grab somebody, tell them life class start, they can't afford to miss it. And grab some water, some coffee, some tea, some wine, whatever it is, get comfy. We're about to begin life class another time, all right? So we're gonna jump over to Serika. She's gonna be our guest for segment 1. And she's going to be talking with us in a few seconds. But before we do that, right, I'm already seeing some persons welcoming the Wilkies, so an audience there. Before we do that, we're going to be asking our tech team to launch a poll question so that you can start to give us a feel of how you do, what are you expecting from the class, and to get a feel of how everybody is, thinking about parenting even before we get into the meat of the matter. So on your screen, you will see the Thrive-O-Meter pre-class poll. Just go ahead and answer as many of you as possible. We want the information, and I'll share the results in a short while. So we're going to be jumping over to Serika, and we'll see the other panelists in a little while. See you shortly. And thank you, JN team, for welcoming all of our lovely guests. All right. Now, Serika, is a big topic we have this evening, and you have a big job as our first speaker for segment 1 to talk about motherhood. All right. So we're going to be asking all of our panelists to just go dark for us, turn off micro and video, and we're going to be zooming in and spotlighting Serika to take us through your journey, your amazing and powerful journey to motherhood. Right, Serika? So
thank you for having me. And thanks, welcome everyone that has joined. I hope that my story will, empower, you'll probably be able to relate to my story and you'll walk away with something. So my journey started 14 years ago. I have two beautiful sons, and the first is 14 years old and the second is 3 years old. So the first pregnancy was pretty smooth. I was just basking in motherhood. I was glowing, my hair was long and everything, and we enjoyed it. And, the delivery was just as easy. And, going through, motherhood, parenting a son, for me, it was difficult because you actually take on how you grow up. So how you grow up, you're trying to learn from that, but you're trying to make the best decision to make it a little bit better for your children. So it's kind of balancing those two.
Just 1 second before you go a little bit deeper, we're going to pause just to take our poll results so we can ground the conversation as you're going to be telling us some more about your journey to parenting. So tech team, do we have a good number of responses? So Serika can also see who we have in the room and what their feelings and their mood is like today. So question 1, how do you describe your current mood? 46% of respondents are okay, 34% are happy. We have about 20% of persons who are not feeling as up, and that's okay. This is a safe space, and there is no judgment for whatever your mood is today. The next one, we wanted to find out how many parents are on here. And we have 80% of our viewing audience, Serika, who are parents. So we're talking to the right people at the right time. And for those who are not yet parents, we're asking them, do you have plans to become a parent? 63% of persons said yes, 9% said sort of, and 29% said no. All right. What is the biggest challenge you face as a parent? This one should be interesting. 43% say understanding how to balance parent role and work. Right? 23% say financial difficulties, 9% say relationship with the other parent, and 26% say finding parenting support and advice. And the final one, what are you expecting from this class? And let's see what everybody had to say. 60% say practical advice on how to form a healthy bond with your child or children. 31% say tips on how to balance or manage the work life and parenting responsibilities, and 9% looking for tips on co-parenting. Thank you all for taking the time to complete the poll this evening. We so appreciate our JL Life Class family. Serika, one more quick thing before we go a little bit deeper. For those of you who are new to the space, we have a Q&A feature. You can see the box. We'll drop the questions for the panelists. Questions only in the Q&A box. And then we're going to be dropping how we're feeling, whatever comments we have in the chat box. And then there's also the raise hand feature for those of you who would like to come on stage and ask a question of any of our panelists. All right. So Serika, you were telling us 14 years ago is when you started your journey to parenting. And you said the first pregnancy was easy, you were glowing.
Yes, I was glowing. Right. It was pretty smooth. I was a very young mother as well. I was 22. So to put it into perspective, for persons who may be here in that age group, I was 22 years old, just married a year. So it was in the first year of our marriage. And within a year or 9 months of giving birth, I went to university. So young mother, young wife, and in university. So, I mean, that's a lot. And I see the questions about work and life balance. Yes. And, going to school, raising a child, and, being this young was a challenge, And what I can say is that throughout that experience, I relied heavily on my partner. I relied heavily on my husband. And to even put a little bit more perspective to it, we were new to Kingston. We knew no one in Kingston. So we didn't have no neighbor, no grandparents to ship them off to. It was just us. So romantic getaway, anniversary dinners, it was all three of us. Yes. But as I said, relying on your partner is important. And one of the things that I want to touch on is that a lot of the times as mommies, we tend to think that daddies can't manage. And we're like, as soon as they start doing something, we're like, no, don't fix it like that. You're using too many wipes. What are you doing? And we back them away. And I think sometimes that causes them as well to just say, all right, you're good at this, just take it up. Yes. So to create that, go ahead.
It's been 14 years since you've been on the journey, right?
Yes.
Any particular thing additional to what you just mentioned that you wish you had known at the beginning of the journey or before the journey started as it relates to becoming a mom?
Well, before becoming a mother, I didn't know it was going to be so much emotional stress. Before, I just thought it was all about cooking, cleaning, taking care of the child, and that was just for you to, get some rest and balance it. But it came for me with a lot of emotional and mental stress because you're thinking about a whole nother human being added to your personal anxieties. And for me, that was big. I was like, whoa, now I have this whole human being that I have to care for, I have to protect, from the big wild world. I also have to prepare him from the for the big wide world. And to some extent, I questioned whether I was even prepared for this big world, So I was trying to prepare myself, prepare him, and ensure that I did the best job possible. And I'm telling you, it can take a lot of, from you mentally. You can start feeling drained emotionally, mentally. You start feeling like, am I good enough? Am I doing the right things? And, one of the things that I recognized after so many years was that you will never know if you're doing the right things. It's really just a one day at a time, adventure. You're learning about this human being as they grow older. So every day, as I used to say, every day with my child was a new day to figure out how to care for a 1 day older child. And we pull on, things from our families and our friends, and we invite any help that we can get, to go on this journey. So I encourage persons, if you're looking for balance, don't try to go at it on your own. It was never built for you to do it on your own. If it is that you don't have to. If you have to do it on your own, no, that's a whole nother story. It requires, building up some kind of a mental fortitude. Again, I know someone will speak to that later on, and I'll allow them to, because I was never in the position of a single parent. But as a mom, what I know is that you have to try to, understand that your child is a human being, have some level of respect for that person, understand that this person is someone that you're going to put out there in society to exist, on their own. And the question for you is, am I properly preparing them? And I think the answer lies within you, because you can't pull it from anywhere else. What are my experiences? What are the things that, I wish I didn't do? What are the things that I saw other parents do or my parents do that that was not good for me or was not good for my siblings, and try to emulate the good thing.
I'm going to ask you to stick up in right there, because I want to make sure that we're drilling down in the very powerful points that you are sharing so far. So one of them for you was support, right? And I hear you talking about even the partnership between yourself and your husband, who is the parent of your sons as well, right? And just being mindful to not take on more than you have to, and to have those conversations and trusting the other partner to play their role also in a comprehensive way. I also hear you mention a big ticket one, Serika, which is, the fact that so many times parents as human beings, tend to repeat what we saw growing up. So sometimes it's very possible to parent the identical way in which you were parented, even if it wasn't a healthy way, right? And I see Judy O'Sullivan in the comment section. When I asked you what you wish you knew before, Judy says, I wish I knew how boys eat, right?
It's funny because my first son, he wouldn't eat when he was young. So we had to force him to eat. But then he hit about 10, 11, and I'm telling you right now, we can't feed him. Now, my second son, he's 3, and we already can't feed him. So I'm hoping that is going to be the reverse.
So you and Judy are in the same backbench right there in the class, right?
Yeah, man. Boys eat a lot, and it's good when they're eating, because when they're not eating, it's a whole nother issue. You're worried. You're like, oh my God, is he getting the correct nutrients? Is he too fragile? Am I doing the right things? Am I cooking it the right way? I mean, there's so many. I mean, this parenting journey is so heavy.
Yes.
And it takes so much from you. And I just want to say to parents out there, moms, dads, take it easy on yourself, especially in this time, in this COVID time. I can share with you that right now, with this COVID, everyone is at home. My bigger son is at home and my little son is at home. And it takes a lot. And it took me a good amount of time to adjust my way of thinking, because I still thought that I could have given the same level of productivity. And because of that, I started getting frustrated with my children. I started getting frustrated with myself. And, you know, and I had to take the time to sit and say, but Serika, you cannot do that. The circumstances are extraordinary.
Yes.
There's no way that you can accomplish the same things that you used to accomplish when the kids were not home. You know, when you were able to send your big kid to school, send your little kid to daycare and go to the office and get something done. It's different now. So you have to adjust your way of thinking so that you don't get frustrated with them, because they too are also dealing with the issue as well. They're not able to go out and see their friends and interact and, you know, just be kids. So they are also dealing with that. And we have to be mindful that anything that impacts us impact them as well.
For sure.
So if something is impacting you, be mindful that it impacts them and take the time to figure out how do they feel. Speak to them about it, condition yourself for it. And that's one of the ways that you're going to help to balance work life, by adjusting your expectation based on your reality.
Yes, a sister of mine coined this term, which I love, and I share it everywhere. And she says flex expectations have become so essential, because especially in the extraordinary circumstances that you rightfully mentioned, Serika, things are vastly different from normal. And it's important for parents and everyone to give themselves the grace for things to not be the way that they always have been.
Most definitely. And I also want to share as well, I'm not sure if anyone here have kids with special needs, and I know that must be even more difficult for you. My younger son, the 3-year-old, he has a global delay, so he's not speaking as he should. He's not very balanced, so he has a delay in every area of his development, and that makes it even that much harder. And for me, sometimes I felt like, you know, me trying to balance work and home, I am neglecting him because he needs a little bit more from me and I'm not able to give him. And that also plays a lot on your emotion and your mental state, because you start feeling like you need to be giving this to your child. Do I make a decision to quit my job? Do I try to, you know, lower my hours? You know, but the bills have to be paid. You know, I have to work to get the money to pay the bills, but he needs my time. And it all comes back to, again, recognizing the situation that you're in, seeking help anywhere you can, from a friend, from a neighbor, from your spouse, if it is that you're co-parenting, from your partner, if it is that you're a single parent, just from anywhere that you can, whether it be an individual or even seeking resources online. That's one of the things that I'm not sure people really take advantage of. Me, Kamala, I'm always Googling. My son throws a tantrum. I'm like, okay, how to deal with a child who's throwing a tantrum for juice? Yes. You know, I'm trying to figure out, has somebody dealt with this before? Yes. How did they deal with it? You know, have they gotten past this stage, especially with a child that needs extra attention? Yes. How do you manage a 14-year-old who is, you know, in online school? How do you manage giving your husband some attention when you have to be splitting your time right down the middle with the kids? Yes. And, you know, you need to still spend a little time with your husband to have a little glass of wine, probably watch a little show. And by the time you finish, you're tired. Communication, having that conversation, because sometimes you may get to that mental place before your partner and you want to bring them with you. Yes. So you want to say, you know, baby, I understand, you know, what you're going through. This is how I feel. And I can just imagine how you feel having to be here in this state. Yeah. Let's see how we can flesh out something. So for my husband and I, what we have done is we try to get a schedule. So, you know, every other day, one person goes to the office. And we consider that a way of, you know, that one person getting away from the craziness, you know, with the kids and everything that you have to do in the house, because it does get daunting. And we try to get, like, that would be the base. But then outside of that, you know, if you have to do anything else, we'll flex. But you have to ensure that both persons are on the same ground in terms of understanding your circumstance, and that you bring the children in as well. So my 14-year-old, we bring him into the conversation, be like, you know, we had the conversation with him to say, you know, Edward, his name is Edward. We said, listen, this is the situation right now. You know, we have a lot dealing with, and here's how you can help. You know, you can help by always ensuring that the kitchen is clean. That's your only job. You go to your classes, when classes finish, take a 15-minute check on the kitchen, clean the kitchen, you know? So bring your kids, bring your older kids into it. And that is a way of also teaching them responsibility, as well as how to adjust to different situations, as well as how to, you know, manage those things. And I feel like it also teaches partnership, because
showing children that you are a part of how this entire system works. You have to contribute, in order to benefit as well. Yeah.
Most definitely. And I must tell you that I can't even claim that victory, because initially I was the one I used to just bark at him to say, go wash the dishes. Go wash the dishes, go wash the dishes. And he used to always push back, and he got angry, and he's stomping and wallowing. And I'm saying to my husband, you need to talk to him, because he don't have no manners, and he's just this and that, and he needs to learn to go wash the dishes. And my husband, no, he's a talker. So he went in and he had a conversation with him, multiple times, and he came out and he said, Serika, it's not that he doesn't want to wash the dishes. He just thinks that you're barking a command at him. Mm-hmm. He doesn't understand why it is that you always want him to wash the dishes. Have you ever shared that with him? And I said, what me tell him to wash the dishes? He doesn't even go wash the dishes. He not do nothing else. And my husband is like, I get it, but remember, he's a person. He has feelings. And when you say to him, go wash the dishes, yes, the dishes must be washed. They're not his dishes. So for him, he's like, why am I doing it? So nothing is wrong if you explain to him why we want to do this. So then we had at least a family meeting now. And, I got the opportunity to explain to him that it's a difficult time for all of us. I'm very busy because we run the business. I have school and I have the foundation, and we have the little one that we have to take care of. And it's a lot for us. And he would, this is his way of helping us through this.
Absolutely.
And since then, I don't hear a peep out of him. Yeah. So bring your children into the conversation, explain to them, because it may make it a little bit easier when they feel like, they are, they're included, that, their feelings matter, and that their opinions matter, and that you're not just throwing something at them, but you're explaining to them why and how they play a part in making the home, a good and settled place for them.
I love that. And Serika, I'm loving the practical tips that we're dropping already. And of course, our viewing audience, they're so amazing. Every week they come and they bring so much energy and value to the conversation. I see Brian Cuff, who was a panelist last week, himself and his wife, Basilia. He mentioned another resource that he has found to be helpful, babycenter.com. So you mentioned Googling Serika to find resources online. So the Cuffs are saying that babycenter.com definitely helped. And let me see, another comment came in that I wanted to pull up. But while that's coming, while I'm finding that, Christine was also saying that she totally agrees with you. She has 3 teen boys and it's costing her a fortune to feed them, right? So I feel like you guys can start a support group for mothers or parents of boys, teenage boys, because it seems to be a real thing. Yes?
Yes. One thing that I can encourage them to do is, instead of buying snacks, because we kind of ban snacks in our household, because, it's really not healthy, and my son is an athlete. However, what we have done is taught him how to cook certain things, certain filling things, because the snacks aren't filling. So he'll run through, how many packs of whatever is there. But if you teach them how to cook basic things, so he knows how to steam rice, he knows how to make, scrambled eggs, and I think he knows how to fry dumplings now. So what we do is we put the food in the house. We have the tin mackerel, the tin this, tin that is there, and you'll find that he'll go and he'll steam some rice, and he'll do up in sardine or in mackerel, and that is a lot more filling than the snack. So I think that helps in terms of the food bill, because the snacks aren't filling. They're going to run through it, and snacks are very expensive. So teaching them how to cook 1 and 2 things is one way that we help to control the food bill.
And teach them responsibility at the same time, yes?
Yes. So sometimes he even cooks for us. He'll wake up and he'll like, you want me to make you something, mommy? And I say yes. And he'll make him bad, him eggs and him pancake, and him fry up this and fry up that. And it also helps with our 3-year-old as well, because sometimes, he'll cook him little rice and things, and that's what my 3-year-old eat from, because we are busy running to meetings, going back and forth, and we don't always maybe slow down long enough to cook him something solid. So with him being able to cook, he cooks something for himself, and we all can eat from the pot. So, it's a big help all around to teach them responsibility and teach them how to cook 1 and 2 things. I know that for boys, a lot of parents tend to, say, oh, don't put the boys in the kitchen. Don't, they're not supposed to be washing. I don't know if things have changed now, but definitely in my household, if you come by, my big son, he'll be doing a load. He'll be throwing it in the dryer. He'll be cooking something, and he, every now and again, he'll come and be like, Mommy, you want me to help you with Seth? Do you want me to take him here? And that is because we have the conversation with him about how important it is for him to contribute and how much we appreciate what he does.
And I love the appreciation piece. Serika, you are founder and managing director of the Preemie Foundation. And there is a big part of your journey to motherhood that inspired urgent action, which came out of starting the Preemie Foundation. And I know that there is some sadness to the story, some elements of loss. And we ask you to bravely share it with us, because I know that there are moms and dads, who may be listening, whether now or the recorded version of Life Class, who may have experienced, loss of a pregnancy as well, right? So talk us through that part of the journey. How did the Preemie Foundation come about? What was your experience that made you decide we needed this resource in Jamaica?
Most definitely. So my story went back to, I can probably start from when I found out that I was pregnant. We were never expecting it, so it was unexpected. And we're like, all right, no problem. We can have one more, this is the last one and we finish it off. No problem. He's, it's ready. It's time. But then to our surprise, when we went to get the ultrasound done, it was triplets. I mean, initially I was scared. I don't know about my husband. He kind of looked scared. But for me, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with 4 children? This was never in the cards. But then afterwards, we kind of got warm with it. We're like, okay, all right, we can do this. Yes, can work it. We probably have to eat one dumpling, but yes, we can work it, But unfortunately, when I got to 27 weeks, triplet pregnancy is already a risky pregnancy, and usually you do not go to 40 weeks, but they usually try to see if you can go as far as 36, 38, thereabout. But for me, I went to 27, and one day I got up and I didn't feel well, so I went to the hospital and I got admitted, and then I went into labor a few days after. The babies weren't ready at all to come out. I had a lot of complications. So I had a lot of medical issues. The doctors were trying to actually airlift me overseas because they said, boy, Serika, based on what is going on with you, we don't think that we can care for you and the children in the best way. So let's try to get you airlifted now. Being airlifted overseas, it's no cheap dollar. Being airlifted alone is $10,000 just to deposit to take you there.
That's US dollars, right? Let's just clarify.
Oh yes. I forgot to drop that on. It's $10,000 at the time. You had to pay for the air ambulance, and then you had to get approval from the hospital. So long story short, that fell through because I was too ill to travel. So the air ambulance got my file, and they're like, we cannot take her because she is too much of a risk. So then, my lungs started shutting down. I couldn't breathe. My oxygen was dropping. The kids were in distress. I was in distress. And there was water in my lungs and everything. And the doctor said, boy, Serika, we have to go ahead and take these children now, because if we don't take them within the next hour, so we'll risk all of you dying. So we're like, okay, we have to go. Now, it was a very sad time because at the time the doctor said, there's one thing that we have to tell you, a couple of things, a matter of fact. One, we don't have sufficient ventilators to take your children, because once a child is born premature, chances are they will need a ventilator to breathe for them. And I was having 3, and you only at the time had 1 ventilator. So then the tough decision would have to be made to say which of these children will go on the ventilator and which 2 you're going to just watch waste away. I went into some heavy praying and I said, God, please, just give them a chance. Miraculously, right before I was wheeled into the theater, they somehow found 2 ventilators. I gather that, it could have been that it became available because somebody passed away, because that's really just how it works in the NICU. But in going into the surgery, now here's the next issue. They didn't have any blood to do the surgery.
Wow.
So they were going to the surgery, had no blood. I was very, very ill. Doctor said, Mrs. Sterling, I don't know when we open you up what's going to happen, but should we open you up and something start going awry, we need your consent to start removing organs. And I was like, what? Removing organs? They're like, yes, we're going to have to, if you start bleeding out, we're going to have to remove your organs because we have no blood. So imagine they are ready to give birth to 3 children and everyone's life is at risk, mine and all 3 kids. And, the anesthesiologist, came in and he said, okay, we're going to put you under fully because we can't risk, giving you a regular C-section because we don't know what's wrong with you. And I must tell you that we cannot guarantee that you'll wake up from it. So outside of bleeding out and losing organs, you may not wake up either. So I had to sign off all of those. So it was very difficult going into surgery.
Yes.
Yeah, man, we did. It was horrible. We did a little prayer. You know, all the doctors came around. There were so many doctors, and they said, let's pray before we go in. Miraculously, I woke up out of the surgery, and all the kids were born alive. And, you know, they were all on the ventilator, and I was like, whew, you know, this is it. You know, this is God's indication that everything is going to be okay. But little did I know that that was the beginning of what would become the most traumatic experience in my life.
Wow.
So 5 days after I went home, I got a call. We were getting ready for bed in the middle of the night, and we got a call from the hospital that, you know, you have to come now because your first son, which is Eli, their names were Eli, Adam, and Seth. Your first son, he's very ill, so you have to come now. And I'm like, boy, based on when I watch show and people tell you have to come now, that's not good. Because they could have told you that, you know, I'm sick, but I'm all right over the phone. But if they tell you have to come in the middle of the night, then something wrong. We got there, and when we went to his room, the lights were off and the machine was off, and we knew he passed away. So the first one, Eli, he passed away after 5 days. Just the morning we were there with him, playing with him, and he was kicking and touching, and we went to him and we're like, yeah, man, they're all right. And just like that, everything changed. He died. And that's when reality set in, like, no, man, this is not going to be no walk in the park. They're not doesn't just sit down on the ventilator and then go home. So, you know, it got a lot tougher from there because the other two, no, every other day there was some other issue. Meningitis, hernia, infections, lung collapsing, you know, it was just crazy. Every day you thought that this is the day that my child is going to die.
Wow.
So there's not a day that you wake up and you feel like, all right, well, go. No, you go there and in the morning, they're perfectly fine. They're eating, they're rosy pink. And then you go there in the afternoon and they look dark and weak and their heart rhythm is down. And the doctor's telling you, boy, I don't know what's wrong with him, but he's not doing well right now. So the second one, Adam, you know, he lived for 2 months and it was 2 rough months. The NICU is not somewhere that is, it's not peaches and cream. It's not the pictures that you see on the internet. Yeah. It's rough. You see a picture of a child that captured a moment in time, but we are seeing them over this period of time going up and down, looking like skeletons, getting really black and you know, dry and, you know, going close to death and then coming back. And that does a lot to you emotionally. So while we were there, you know, the question was, how do we deal with this? Why is this happening to us? Why are our kids ill? So, you know, I gone back to my Google. I'm a Googler. So I started Googling, you know, resources, you know, looking for persons who may have had triplets, who may have premature babies. How did it end? What happened? And I was very surprised to find that there was absolutely no resource in Jamaica as it relates to prematurity. There was nothing that I could find that mentioned prematurity, whether it be on the Ministry of Health, whether it be any site at all. And I was like, whoa. So for me, you know, I'm like, wait, so that means to say I'm the only person this is happening to in Jamaica, you know? But I did find resources overseas. You know, I found resources in other countries and I found that it was a big thing. It was a huge thing in other countries. It was the #1 killer for infants. And I didn't know that. That statistics wasn't here. So when I was pregnant, I didn't even think about that. Yes. I didn't think about prematurity. I just thought that, okay, the baby born 7 months, just stay at the hospital, you know, for a little while and come out. I never knew that the statistics, that the mortality rate was so high and it was a global problem, but we weren't talking about it here. So it so happened that my second son, he passed away after 2 months after undergoing so much. He did about 30 blood transfusions for the 2 months that he was there, and went through so much surgery and, you know, so many things. At one point, I mean, I prayed so much until I got to the point where I'm like, you know what, God, just do what you're doing. Because I prayed to them, I prayed to them, look good, and tomorrow I'm gone, you know, and I just got tired. So like, I stopped praying and just talking to God and said, God, just do what you do and make haste with it, because this is really hard for me. So, you know, he passed away after 2 months, and luckily for us, the second time around was a little bit different. So the first time around, we weren't there and we chose not to see him because we didn't know how it was going to make us feel. Yes. The second time around, we're a little bit more connected. So, you know, the doctors told us that he didn't die. The doctors told us that there was nothing else they could do for him. And once he suffers another cardiac arrest, they weren't going to revive him. And while they were telling us that, he suffered a cardiac arrest. Wow. So now I'm in tears, bawling, because, now I'm like, there's no hope. I can't pray anymore because this is the last cardiac arrest. They're not going to resuscitate him. And all I asked for was, can I hold him? Because when your child is in the NICU and it's a preemie, you can't hold him once they're on the ventilator. So we held him and we sang to him and we watched him just slip away, and he passed away in our arms. And then we walked out of the room, and funnily enough, we said, okay, let's go say bye to Seth, which is the last one, and leave.
Because you were thinking that it would have been another negative outcome.
Yes, when I went to his room right after Adam died, I walked to the door, and as soon as I walked to the door, his heart rate dropped, his oxygen dropped, and the doctors rushed in, and I was like, oh my gosh, so I'm going to lose 2 kids in one day? So we decided that, I said, I can't stay here. I can't stay. They're going to have to call me and tell me that he's dead, because I'm not going to watch another child die today. So we looked at him and the doctor said, you can't do anything right now. We have to wait until the doctor comes. So might as well you go. So we left and we just walked around in a circle, at Hero Circle, just looking in space. And, long story short, he went through so much again for the next 2 months.
Wow.
So he was there in total 4 months. And for the 4 months, he was up and down. He had Klebsiella, which was Klebsiella was that infection that was killing out the babies. You remember when they had the dead baby scandal? That's the illness that was killing, right? So he had that. He had that for about 2 months for the time he was in there. So he was isolated by himself for a whole time. He had meningitis. His left side of his lung collapsed. Then when he came back up, the right side collapsed. Then he was at risk for a pneumothorax. That is where your lung would expand until it popped, which is what happened to the first baby. So they had to insert a tube in him. It was just a lot. I can tell you, it's a rough experience.
Yes.
And for me, it was really what brought us through was the other parents that were there, looking at resources that was out there, understanding the whole process, the whole NICU journey, the whole preemie journey, how it works. And that is what kind of kept us going. We knew that we may not walk out of there with our kids, but we knew that we had to be there for them until whenever that day comes, whether you're leaving or they're passing. And we were each other's friends. We were, helping each other, cracking jokes whenever somebody's child passed away or got too ill, we encouraged them. And that's how we got through. And for the doctors, it took so much out of them. They didn't have proper equipment working with. Sometimes they were understaffed, and you could see that just being in that setting every day was taking a toll. And I would speak to them about it. So when I left the NICU in September, which is when he got discharged, I took him home, taking care of him. And all of that time I'm thinking, Serika, you have to do something. This cannot be it. You couldn't be in this hospital for 6 months, saw so much, went through so much, and walk away and do nothing. Think about your kid. If God forbid my son's wife should, many years from now have a child that is premature, and you go to the hospital and there's no equipment, I'm going to feel like, then why didn't I do something 20 years ago when I knew that something needed to be done? And that's how the Preemie Foundation was born.
Let me just pick up in and just say, this is so much for one couple of parents to go through, and for such a young baby to experience. We are grateful alongside you that, you came out of it with a triumphant spirit, though you experienced not one loss, but 2, and I'm just sending good energy your way, because this is it's literally a story of tragedy being converted by grace, and by persistence into triumph. And I know that the foundation is doing good work. And because we're almost, coming to the end of your segment, and we want some questions for you as well. Tell us in bite-sized chunks, what does the foundation do, and how, if any way, those who are on here could perhaps support the work of the foundation. And kudos to you and your husband for turning your own tragedy into something that other people can triumph through as well.
Sure. So the Preemie Foundation was, we started the Preemie Foundation, and our mandate is to, 1, increase awareness about premature births in Jamaica for everybody to understand that this is something that is commonplace. When you get pregnant, you probably want to understand how that works and, you know, what are your risk factors. Secondly, to raise funding for hospitals to purchase medical equipment. At the time, I'm telling you right now, I think probably Victoria Jubilee have 2 ventilators. UE is probably ahead, and most hospitals across the island don't have a NICU right now. So our mandate is to raise funding through raising awareness so that we can equip every hospital on the island with at least a nursery and at least with a ventilator or some form of equipment to deal with critically ill babies or critically ill premature babies. We also want to raise funding for research, because that's one of the areas that, you know, is of global importance. A lot of countries, they're going into research. How do we, you know, prevent premature births? How do we care better and increase the survival rate for premature babies? So we want to raise funding to put into that locally. And fourth, we want to create a community for persons who either have lost their premature baby, who is going through the situation, or who is outside of it now and still managing their preemie, you know, to as a place where they can come and get information. How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I deal with this? How did you manage this? So it creates a community, it raises awareness, it gives prematurity a voice. Yes. So that the, you know, the government and policymakers can see that we're making some noise, so we need to do something as well. This year, our project, we're looking to have a project at the Princess Margaret Hospital. Right now, Princess Margaret Hospital does not have a nursery. It does not have a NICU. It has a children's ward. So whenever a mother...
Interject here again, but we just want to clarify for those who may not be familiar. NICU stands for Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. ICU yes. For adults. The NICU is for the newborn babies, and primarily preemies are the ones who end up being in the NICU most often. And you're saying that most hospitals in Jamaica do not have a NICU.
Correct. So most hospitals don't have a NICU. They have what you call a nursery, which is where after the baby is born, they're put in a room, a sterile room to stay until they're ready to leave. They get them checked. But a neonatal intensive care unit is for critically ill babies or premature babies, and most hospitals in Jamaica don't have that. So if you give birth in St. Thomas and you have a preemie, they have to transport that child to one of the hospitals in Kingston. And I have heard of situations, a matter of fact, my sister's baby died during transport. She had twins, and one of them was critically ill, and she had it at Mandeville Regional, and they had to transport the child, and the child passed. So what we want to do is we want every hospital to have at least the basic equipment so that even if they have one premature baby or critically ill baby, they can take care of that baby at least to a point where they're healthy enough to be transported, and that parents don't have to watch their children pass away because the hospital is not equipped to do so.
Serika, you are a dynamo, you are a powerhouse. I can hear the passion in your voice. And I'm just so grateful that after something that could have, you know, floored yourself and your husband into failure, you know, or into depression, that you have found the spirit, you know, the strength of spirit to rise above, not only for you and your family unit, but to be helping so many other families across Jamaica. And if there's anyone on here who is looking forward to learning more about the Preemie Foundation, an amazing movement, I want to call it, Serika. There's a link that our team just dropped in the chat for you to be able to follow on Instagram, get more information, and find ways to contact Serika and her team to find out how each of us as individuals can make a difference. Especially if it's in your neck of the woods, right? Let us do something to help our own community. I see Stenia sharing a similar story to yours, Serika. She says she's also mom of a preemie baby, was born at 20 weeks and was 1 pound and 10 ounces, my word. She says she's in Florida, so there were resources, you know, and her son also spent almost 6 months in the NICU. So there's so many family people who have experienced this. And similarly, she says he's now 9 years old. He has developmental delays and he's high functioning autistic and has sensory processing disorder, especially because of all that these young babies have gone through. There can be some, you know, residue of some of those issues in their physical bodies and in the brains as well, you know?
As I said, my 3-year-old, he has a global delay. I mean, we still have to do some more assessment to see whether he's on the spectrum. But as it stands, he has a global delay. So he's delayed in every area, balance, speech, and everything. So it's a lot even after, and that's why the community is important. What do you do after? How do you handle all these things as someone who's not prepared to take care of a special needs child? How do you afford that kind of a care? And just to know that you're not the only person going through it.
And as you mentioned, afford, Serika, you shared a very staggering figure with me. If you could share that with the audience, I think that would help us to realize how much your foundation needs the support. What was your journey?
So when I left the University Hospital of the West Indies, I left with a $3.8 million bill, and I left with one baby. So it's a lot. It's very expensive. And one thing that I can tell you, when you have a premature child and that child has to go on the ventilator, there's a particular drug that the child needs before they can go on the ventilator. It's called Surfactant. And at the time, you have to purchase it before. So the hospital doesn't provide it. It's not covered, right? You have to purchase it by yourself. And it's $75,000 for a dose.
For one dose?
One dose. So I had to purchase 3 of that. So imagine I had to come up with $200,000 on the spot to purchase it so that they can quickly go on the ventilator. So it's a lot, you know what I mean? And it's very expensive. And even after you leave, like right now, I can tell you, speech therapy is very expensive. I got quoted something like $120,000 per month.
Wow.
Yeah, so it gets expensive, it gets a lot, and we need that community, we need that support. We need to talk about this so that, we can probably push the government to subsidize stuff like those, to make those things, a priority, to include those things maybe under the NHF and all of that. So, please come together, please, follow us on Instagram, reach out to me and tell me how you can help. Look out for our programs, and we will welcome anyone on board to help us reach our mandate.
So Serika, we're seeing so much affirmation for your strength. What's your husband's name, if you don't mind us asking, so we can big him up too?
Sure, Devon Sterling, and I mean, he's just as passionate, but he just doesn't like the camera too much, but he's just I'm sure he is, but he's taking care of, he had to go pick up the big son and take care of the little one, and so probably isn't, but he'll definitely watch, on YouTube.
So when he does watch, can we just drop some hearts in the chat for Serika and Devon? We absolutely are amazed and so proud, of the grace and the strength you've been able to tap into. And not only for you, as I said before, but for so many other persons. Rani says that she's going to be trying to send OR beds and stretchers, or she tried about 4 years ago, and it was but no success. So hopefully we can try again as a community, even from our space here, in order to lend support. So jump over.
So so to that person, you can reach out to me, because I'm a CPA, so I understand, the customs process, and because I have the foundation, I understand as well. Sometimes it's just the way it's sent. There are certain approvals that you have to get. So it's best to reach out to a foundation who can get those approvals for you, so that once you send it, we can clear it easily. So if you have something to send, don't worry about it. Reach out to us, and then we'll tell you the process. We'll do everything from here, and then all you have to do is just make your contribution.
Marsha Benny says, you are amazing, Serika. Celia from the JN group says, big up the Sterlings, you are stars. And Christine says, sending love to you guys for your strength and encouragement to others. Big hugs to you, Serika, and big kudos. I'm tapping loud over here for you. And the foundation, I learned about the foundation for the first time in engaging with you for life class, and I'm so glad I did. Yeah. So we're looking forward to seeing the progress of this latest project for the hospital. And thank you so much for sharing your story. Much love to you, and from everybody who's on, sending crazy love to you and hubby and to your 2 beautiful boys. So
thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. If there are any questions for Serika specifically around managing, coping with a premature baby or birth, just go ahead and drop it in the chat, because Serika is going to come back on at the end when all the other guests will be on, so we can tease out any questions that we have left. So thank you so much, Serika, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Sure. Take care. Bye, everyone.
What a powerful story. Oh my gosh. Wonderful. We now invite on the life class stage 2 persons who are no strangers to us, the fabulous IT and Karen Ellis. They were with us on season 1 with their 2 beautiful daughters, and they are back with us today, only by themselves, right? I'm sure that the young Ellises are watching, but we have IT and Karen with us. Thank you guys for joining us again. How are you doing?
Oh, I tell us, first thing first, let me just say this. Father God, I thank you for this opportunity to say thank you for keeping Serika, for giving her the strength that is admirable, that is unwavering. It is out of this world, and you, God, are out of this world. Thank you for her and her inspiring story. Listen, let me say this before I say anything else. Serika deserves a Sterling Award. Deserves a Sterling Award. Because she possesses sterling strength. And those of you who are watching from the UK, we need sterling pounds to support the Preemie Foundation. Sterling pounds.
I see come with a strong word and a righteous word for the time, right? Sterling pounds, sterling award for the sterlings. Karen, what you say?
Powerhouse, man. Powerful woman.
It was testing for me to listen to the story too, because
man.
As a father, I always, I'm not preparing myself to what kind of son or sons-in-law I'm going to meet. And if one of them can't give me that story, I'm going to say, all right, then, Charlie. All right, that's
What a powerhouse woman.
Really, you know.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
I could listen to her.
I'm almost speechless, just at home.
Yes, man. Yeah, I could watch her the entire evening, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And
amazing strength.
For creating this space where we can share these powerful stories.
I know.
Yes.
Yes. You and Karen mentioned just now that you're at a very specific point in your parenting journey, right?
Yes.
So we started off with Serika, who has a teenage son, but we wanted to kind of focus on the newborn, toddler stage for her segment, for those parents who have young children or who are about to be pregnant, But we wanted to touch in on IT and Karen, as it relates to parenting the children who are about to become adults, that very critical transition stage. How has your parenting style evolved as your girls have moved from, ribbons and bobby socks into now planning for marriage or
skinny jeans?
Yes, very different. Yeah.
I thought you said parents who have children who are about to be pregnant.
Oh no, I didn't get that one.
I wanted to clarify that from early, you know what I mean? I know they are listening, but our style.
Well, first of all, our daughters are adults, so we're all adults in the house. So we have a 19-year-old and we have a 24-year-old.
And I'm also 24.
IT 24 plus how much?
Yes.
But I mean, our styles have changed in that right now we have to adjust to the fact that they are older. I mean, Nasasia, the younger, she's in university, late teens. And so how we were parenting earlier is changed because we have to recognize that, okay, they are opinionated. Yes. They are very, very different, complex girls, I must say. Complex because Nastasia, when she's inside the house, you hardly see her. She appears to be introvert, but when she's outside or on YouTube, she's definitely not an introvert.
Definitely not.
So, you know what I mean? Then Najali is a complete reverse. Najali in the house, she is a talker. She has strong opinions, and she expresses herself clearly and confidently. But when she's outside, she's more the back office, behind the scene kind of person. So they switch roles in a kind of complex way that is. So you see already it's very, we cannot parent both of them the same way.
Same way, yes.
No, definitely not. They are two different.
Way to start out with, to say that every child is different.
Yes.
Yes.
We need to be flexible in responding to the needs of each child.
Yes, definitely. Yes. So that's something that influences how we parent them. One other thing I want to say very quickly too is that we have different parenting styles too. So even though it's different parenting, both of them, Karen and I are very different. She's the typical, stereotypical nurture. And we have fights about it sometimes because I keep telling her, listen, they are growing up now, especially the younger one. She's no longer a baby. Stop babying her.
It's a mother nurture. it's the mother nurture, yes. So, you know, we are nurturers. So that is going to be something that is, you know, gonna be forever there. Yes. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, he's the more disciplinarian. So, you know, then he will take on that side. So when it comes to time for discipline, then of course, you know, I will reach out to him.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's some partnership. And what I think is important, there's understanding of the differences.
There are, yes.
Yes. We have to understand and apply accordingly, you know, and the teacher's patience. Mighty God.
Grace.
the teacher's patience.
I remember when all of you were on live class in season 1, it was the finale for season 1, actually, your segment. And it was so powerful and so warm. So for all of our viewers who want to catch it, just go on the JN's YouTube page and you can watch that interview again. 2 beautiful and powerful young women who spoke so glowingly about their parents and realistically too, you know? Yes, so I want to jump in on that point now, IT and Karen, as it relates to preparing your daughters, your now adult daughters, for the real world out there, right? What are some of the ways in which you as a married couple have had to be intentional, you know, about managing how you argue, managing conversations, talking to them like adults, being honest about your journeys and so on? To give us some tips and some practical ways in which you've had to literally focus on it to prepare them for when they step into parenting roles, perhaps.
Oh, that's a very important question.
Yeah, but for one, we have regular meetings though.
Yes.
Family meetings.
We have regular family meetings.
Yes.
So we kind of set the boundary because, you know, the connection is different now, as you know, being adults now. So we have to now set boundaries for stuff like that. So we can't see them as the babies anymore.
Well,
so, yes. Yes. So we now have to think from a adult point of view now. So we know
have to treat them as they are as adults, you know.
Yes.
And treating them as adults, one of the things that I do is to make them aware of money, usage, management, you know, responsibility. Like the older one, she's working, so we introduce the idea.
Family business as well.
And she's in the family business.
Yes.
So we introduce the idea of, okay, you have to start paying some bill at the house too. You know what I mean? Responsibility. So she learns that. Let me say, what is the thing that you enjoy most here? Oh, she like Netflix and she like internet use. All right, so pay the internet bill, and you know. So she understands now. Okay, to ask a certain value, then she needs to pay for that. And the teaches her, and she's learning obviously responsibility. So when she goes out there, she would have already been, you know, accustomed to paying a bill. So that is one of the things that we need to do. A practical thing that you need to do. You know what I mean? Of course, you know, the other thing that is teaching them a life skill. And right now, I am still teaching them to drive, both of them at the same time. So they are different at different levels. So that's a practical life skill because you want them to be independent. And the thing about driving is that once you learn it once, that's it. They carry that skill for life. And also, what we do by teaching them both to drive, we also help them to save, to invest that money that would have probably expended in getting tutoring somewhere else, you know, save it and get to learn and spend more bonding time together. Because at this stage, they're going to be leaving soon.
And we're a tight-knit family, so we enjoy stuff together. So we go on vacations together just the same. So, you know, we enjoy each other company. So, yes.
Listen, I mean, we have to stop that last anniversary because they were coming to too many occasions with us. So listen, effective last year, January 1st, that's it. So we go on anniversaries. Because there were times in the past when they were younger, they would just come with us. And so we, as Karen said that we are very close.
Yes.
So the practical reality is that we have to make them aware of, you know, money, saving, responsibility, bills, skill learning, independence, because you know, so that they when they go outside, they are prepared. I always say, you know, young ladies often ask, you know, they're trying to determine what kind of young men they want in their lives, but they need to prepare themselves to what kind of young women they're gonna be in those young men's lives, you know.
Balance. I'm curious, IT and Karen, about the driving story, right? Karen, are you a driver also?
I am a driver as well.
Okay, so talk us through why it was that Ian, IT, was the one who took on the role of the teacher of driving.
He has the patience to do that. Yes, and you know, I think that he's pretty close with them. You know, he's very close with the girls. I mean, they have very good rapport. You know, sometimes I think I have 3 children in the house, to be honest. Yes. So, I mean, he enjoys doing it. So, I mean, that is something that he will take on. I can't manage that part. I don't have the patience for that.
Well, let me tell you something. Speaking about enjoy doing it, let me say to you, not a walk in the park, not even a drive in the park, because it's a high risk responsibility, because safety is key. So, like the younger one, she needed to get her provisional driver's license to go and collect it. I said, unless you have it in your hand, you're not going to run that steering. So they learn that that's important. Yeah. You have to put the L's on the car and that kind of thing. And then now, I had a minor accident recently with the younger one. So, and in that moment, it was a learning moment, a teaching moment for me, learning moment for me. So, you know, I recognize in the moment that, listen, at the end of the day, she's far more important than the vehicle, you know? So I would not have known how I would have responded in the moment until I was given the moment. So it's a challenging experience, but I'm trusting that it will be over soon because I learn fast, you know? You can, she's a YouTuber, so she put up everything. So you watch her on Ellis YouTube, you will see the whole experience there, you know?
The stories there.
So Karen should help me sometime though, but I mean, she says she don't have the patience.
I can't take that.
I'm sure she can. It's not her calling.
No. Not at all.
But I love that story because I feel like sometimes the temptation can be, especially when there's a big accident. Big meaning, you know, it's not like you drop a glass and break it. Sometimes parents have this way of looking at some things as being bigger than others, and it's human nature. And sometimes the reflex can be to throw a tantrum or to burst a blood vessel, you know, or to yell or whatever the case is. And I hear you saying that in that experience, IT, you realize that patience, understanding, was much more important than anything else in that moment. And your daughter's well-being, the fact that you both were okay.
Yes. Right. Yes. All that was very important. Key takeaways for me right there, you know. And then after it, we have to consider, all right, do we continue this or do we just move you over to one of the driving schools and continue? So you know, experience consequences, instruct behavior. So we have no other accident or incident for us to think about. So that's a part of the learning experience. So, okay, so now when something happens, how do we treat with it? Or what kind of consequence, what kind of change do we make as we go forward? So all that is a part of the game now. So that's the thing, when you have adult children, I'm sure Serika is not thinking about that right now. You know, so there are different experiences at this age. You know, definitely.
Yeah, the competition, you know, all those things.
Yes. And they were spending a lot of time together, obviously, since last year. And Asasa is doing school online, so she's at home most of the time. So we are together most of the time. So therefore, managing emotional intelligence, all that is critical now, so we can share the space. We have business together, family business, so we spend a lot of time together. So that's a part of the learning too. So how do we navigate the different spaces and pay attention? As the man, the only man inside the house, to get into the different personalities.
Yes.
And you know, it sometimes it can be a hotbed of emotions.
Yes.
I have to navigate the space and keep quiet sometimes.
Yes.
And keeping quiet is not easy for me.
That's something that we're learning as well, to keep quiet, to listen. I am learning to listen. That is something that, you know, I'm learning to do.
Yes. And I in particular wanted to just highlight, you know, how it is that for many of us, watching our parent or parents in a love space teaches you about what love must look like, whether it's a good lesson or a bad lesson. That's how we learn about how man treat woman and woman treat man, and about how marriage work and so on, you know? So is there anything that you have been teaching, like in a very literal way, to your girls, to your daughters about love and relationships outside of what they observe from your relationship?
Wow, outside of our own relationship.
Are there any gems that you drop on them from time to time and say, listen, independence, for example, you know, is important regardless of if your husband rich or not, you know? Is there anything like that about wealth or love that you have been dropping?
Yes, man, definitely the independence part of it. Yes,
yeah,
they have to own their own, because like even with Najali now, she's working with the family business, but then she wants to experience other things, you know, so maybe career-wise she wants to do something else. So we'll support her on that, you know, but by working with the company, she expressed that she wants to be her own CEO, you know, so that is something that she admires from maybe just being in the company. And
we encourage that, and we encourage any other interest. You know, we had a minor discussion, intense discussion. I would not call it argument, because I was saying to her that if it is that she doesn't want to work in the family business, I mean, whatever, if she expresses it, then we'll support it. But I don't think she believed that I meant it, you know, because, you know, passionately I am very strong on the fact that you should own your own things, and you know, if the company is here for you to establish any kind of growth. I remember seeing a fast food store opening in this area that we live, and the line was long, and she was saying, Daddy, the line is so long. Whoa. I say, what kind of business can you create to create that kind of line? And I said, boy, you have to go there, Daddy. You have to go there now. You know, why you have to go there? You know what I mean? So I keep teaching them that kind of lesson. So, but aside from that, and in spite of that, if it is that they have an interest in an area, then they enjoy our support. Yes. And that's important for them to know.
Yes. So I feel like I hear you both talking about legacy, that both of you are big on leaving a solid legacy in terms of the lessons that you're passing on. And IT, let me tell you something. I really applaud you and Karen for that focus on creation of own wealth and creating generational wealth, because as COVID has taught many of us, what we own, nobody can take it. You understand?
Yes.
So many things can just go up in smoke.
I listen to. We learned so many lessons last year, because I think the universities are now revisiting the course content of some management courses right now, because they cannot be teaching the same concept, because students are now need to be prepared to adjust to something like this again in the future. We don't know, but they need to put up. You cannot ignore that. So for us too, it was a learning experience for us. I'm in the entertainment industry. Live events slows down. What next? What do you do? You know what I mean? And how to adapt, and to be adept at adapting was a lesson that they were learning real time. And then we had a slump. They were learning that when the resources get scarce, you had scarce resources. How do we manage the scarce resources that we now have? Real time. Those things, perhaps you cannot learn otherwise. So it was good for them to get that experience in a time that was low, because that's the cycle of some businesses, you know. You're going to have good times, and often sometimes some challenging times, and how to navigate those challenging times. Last year was a lesson, a teacher. The experience was a teacher in and of itself.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Yes.
Is there, I heard you both mention about pretty much allowing your daughters the freedom to make choices, you know, on their own, even though you encourage collaboration as a family unit. Talk us through, IT and Karen, how you strike that balance. Let's talk about faith, because I know your faith is important to both of you, right, as Christians. And I know that in some families, unfortunately, there's pressure on the children that you have to come to church every Sunday, you have to be a preacher, you know, you have to abstain from this, you have to not drink alcohol, those types of things around the faith. How did both of you manage that without, kind of stepping on the autonomy or the individuality of your girls?
I tell you, I don't even think we did much. I think they just follow our examples.
Yes.
We didn't have to do much. I mean, when it was my time, Nastasia came along with me, even though she didn't know what she was getting into. A couple of years after that, she realized, that this was a good thing. But like I say, we are a close-knit family, so she know that I'm going into that, and it was, obviously something good. So she came along, and then when it was Ian's turn, Najali went with him. So, I mean, we didn't have to do much. I mean, we still have the Sunday morning where we have to say, come time to get up, but we still go through that. Every Sunday we go through that. We have a devotion every Saturday morning. Yes. And every Saturday morning, Ian is the one that takes charge of the devotion. And every Saturday morning, he has to be on top of things to say, look here, is devotion time. So, I mean, we go through that every week in the house. Yeah. But regardless of what, we still, manage to pull everything together.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a blessing for us too.
Yes.
Because it's a challenge for a lot of families to have everybody on the same page, and we're not all on the same page at all.
Right.
In the sense that everybody's level of zeal
right.
for the devotion and for church is different.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the one thing is that we're happy about they recognize the importance of our faith together.
Yes.
And they are obedient to it.
They are very obedient.
Right now, if you look on, we put a kind of, not vision board, but a kind of...
That's a roster.
A roster of who is doing devotion when, and also to set our goals for ourselves and to see how we achieve them. Today, it's now January 13 already, 13 days gone out of the year.
And we had our family meeting last week.
Yes.
And we all, wrote our goals down, and
That was a very important part of it. So, so I mean, that is critical. That comes first and foremost at all times.
Yes.
I make no apology about it. And the thing is, the good thing is that we meet very little resistance, if any, from
if any. Yes.
So that is a blessing.
Yes.
That's a blessing.
That's wonderful.
We each have our different roles in the church, so.
Yes. That's all. She's into the worship leader, and she's very creative. Nastasia knows she's the intercessor. She's the preacher.
Yes.
I tell you, I mean, Karen, she takes care of hospitality, and she, she's very good with that. Myself share sometimes. So all of our different roles in the church, I want to learn to play some musical instruments now.
I like how you're building it up. I love the legacy conversation.
Yes.
In terms of the faith, yes.
Yes. So and it's not always, there are some low times when either one or two of them just, not interested, and then we have to find a way to motivate, to pray together, to encourage and to exalt all the time, because it's a journey, and we have different experiences, I mean, like last Saturday, I was challenged because one of them wanted to sleep. I'm not calling her name.
Don't call her name.
I'm calling her name. And I was having it. I was saying, listen, you can sleep. You should go to bed early on a Friday night, So I have those little challenges sometimes.
Yeah.
But the good thing that what I do every Saturday is a different person. I'm not there every week. And when they're preparing, they're more alert.
Yes.
So you guys cracking the code, how to get more initiative taking.
Yes.
In terms of how should I put it? There are so many ways in which we leave emotional legacies also for our children, right? Have you had to do some unlearning of your own, the ways in which you were parented in order to be the best parents for your two daughters?
Definitely. Well, for me, when I was growing up, I didn't have a father, so I make sure when I got married, I said, listen, no divorce is happening here. Because
I see you never had a chance.
Not a chance. So I mean that we don't have. We have our times and we go through our difficulties and everything, but we stood out, you know, and I said we work together. We're gonna make this work because not just for the children, because you know we'll say we're staying for the no. Yes. I know that a father is very important in a relationship, and I couldn't do it on my own. So partnership is very important to me, and from day one I tell him we have to make this work. Yes.
So it's a job for two persons. Yes. I had to unlearn similar things to Karen because I didn't go with a father either. So just to live a life, recognize the value of the two parents is some unlearning that we have to do. Yes. And and through the journey, like I was talking to my older daughter recently, and she was saying, hey, pretty much, you know, been through school, prep, high school, did very well, exceptionally well, complete university and thing, you know what I mean? I feel happy, if I want to say proud that you complete the cycle without much to report, and to say, listen, you don't know that there were times when I had to go through a certain kind of trauma. I said, what kind of trauma? I said, no, because we live, as parents, we live our lives from our own perspective. Sometimes, what, you know what I mean? But I mean, our challenge is to discuss like conflict resolution, you know what I mean? Like she was saying to me the other day, say, she feel like she should have been allowed to be socialized in the space earlier, meaning to go there and take a bus earlier to integrate with, you know. So we would pick her up, especially the mom would pick up every day.
Drop them, pick them up, so, you know.
So I think it was a good thing we were doing to secure them. And now she looking back, she's saying, hey, it would have been good for her to be a part of the social space now, because there are some skills that she would learn in that space that she can't learn out of the space, you know. It can't be taught, just telling them about it. You have to go there. I remember Nasa was saying they were going to take a bus, because over time we allowed them to get that experience. And they said, Daddy, we're going into the bus and everybody moving. Najal is out there, she joined their line. That was a poor line, you know. So it just showed that she wasn't equipped to deal with that kind of experience. So that's some of the challenges that we face. I never wanted to embrace the term that they have been sheltered. I want to say they have been secured into an upbringing that I'm hoping and praying and trusting that they are now prepared for adulthood the best way that we can.
Yes, absolutely. Because right. Because you will never get it right.
Karen, you were going to add on something to what Icy said?
No, I was saying that even as parents, we don't get everything right.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's something I also heard Serika echo in her segment, that sometimes there's the anxiety of, oh my word, am I doing the right thing?
Yes.
You know, what do I bring? So I feel like for all the parents who are watching, that's already one of our underlined lessons from tonight's class. You know, that everybody's on a learning journey.
Yes.
All right. And mistakes will come. But what I absolutely love about what you shared just now, IT and Karen, is how much your daughters trust you to come and even say that to you. Because I have sat as a psychologist with so many clients who have experienced similar things, but them know that their parents not safe to go and tell them that I would have preferred if you had done it differently. It's taken in a very defensive way by the parents. You understand what I mean? So they trust you enough to even share that with you. And I think that's a testament.
Right. And we have to be mature enough to understand and to allow that kind of expression and that kind of sharing too. Because to be honest with you, sometimes we're tempted to say, hey, listen, my son have a good school, make sure to take care of him, never want anything and all, we highlight all the things that we think we did right. But not we recognize that there might have been some things that we overlooked in the process, you know?
True.
Absolutely.
So it's good that we have this open relationship that we can really share with each other what we're feeling, and I'm learning what they might have felt. And even now,
I'm learning about them, because even Najali will share, like when she's doing the devotion, she will be teaching. I mean, she will have us bawling her eye out when she's doing devotion. I mean, she is like a psychologist. I'm saying, no, you need to go do a course in that, you know? So, I mean, Yes, we are learning from them as well.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
I see one of our regular viewers, Letna. Letna says it's the learning curve. Sometimes you have to allow them to butt them toe, but they always be there to catch them.
Yes.
Some wise there.
Yes.
I want to close out your segment, Ellis, with what is the most memorable or the most pleasant feedback you've gotten from your daughters about how you parent them, or anything that you've invested in them. I remember on season 1, I was almost moved to tears about how they spoke about you. And it wasn't fairy tale-ish, it was realistic, but it was just so beautiful, you know? So for each of you, what has been the thing that has warmed your heart the most about what they have said about you?
I can say, I mean, even when they love seeing us, I mean, like even now we still go on our dates and they will compliment us and say goals. That's a goal for them. They want to be a couple like us. So, I mean, that is something that warms my heart. Each time we put up our pic and they will put on it goals.
Hashtag goals.
Yes.
I love that too. That's beautiful.
Yes.
Surprising feedback. Whoa. What can I say was a surprising feedback from Nastasia or Najali. I relate to my parenting, you know? That's a difficult one for me now. I'm thinking, because you use the word surprise, you know?
Well, let's say pleasant or memorable.
Pleasant.
Oh, pleasant or memorable?
Yes.
Well, all right. I go back to that experience. Najali said to me when we came home from the accident, she said, boy, daddy, boy, you have patience because for me, I'm going to lose it. That was a surprising feedback. I was going to her parents. She said, my older daughter said, hey, listen, I don't think I could manage that moment the way that you did. And that was a surprise. And a pleasant one too, because, you know, you want to feel that you did the right thing. You want to feel that you did the right thing in the moment, you know?
Absolutely.
Yes. But listen, no, them, you see, I am not one of those kind of stereotypical Jamaican man. I say, oh, me no ball. No, listen, they have said things that really move me
and we
tears.
teach them about forgiveness. Yes.
It's a critically important thing. So now is the challenge is to see the trajectory of their lives, you know, to see what form it will take. And as a man, nervously seeing how I'm gonna pilot them into the next sphere of their lives, you know? Yes. Because I'm sure that marriage is on the horizon. One of them is right there. You know?
I realize you're looking at camera.
Boy. But I mean, we give God thanks for the foundation that they have in Him, and we trust Him to guide them. I say to them all the time, make sure you keep your foundation, you are well grounded in your belief system, because they want to tour, so they're going to be experiencing different cultures and that kind of thing. So when you go, you carry it, you know, and just be prepared to meet with differences, you know, opinions that are not yours, you know.
Yes.
That is the kind of advice I try to give them.
I so admire the openness. I think that's one thing that has struck me from season 1's life class, the openness and how approachable a parenting style you both have, you know, where your daughters can talk to you. And as I saw Brian Cook mention earlier, that you not only talk at them, but you talk with them.
Yes.
It's an open communication. And that's something I want to extend to all of our viewers who are parents, that in this day and age, especially when there's access to the internet and children are so well read and so knowledgeable about so many things, it's important not to go at them with a hammer all the time or any at all, but to also have conversation and reasoning with children. And that really builds up trust over time.
Definitely.
Yes. Definitely. And go up that learning curve, you know. Identify the errors, the mistakes, learn from them, move on, and listen. Don't be afraid to apologize if you get it wrong. Because that was a learning curve for me to recognize, you don't, because I'm a father, I'm not always right.
That is it.
I'm not always right. So when you get it wrong, say, all right, I'm sorry about that. You know?
Perfect. That's a perfect way to end it, because not everybody has it right. We're out of time for your segment, but it was a pleasant journey to go on with both of you. And please stay on to the end so you can give some final love to the JN Group family. All right?
Yes.
And the team dropped the links in the chat to the YouTube channels for NAS, right? And IT's channel, so you can follow the family on their journey as they move forward into 2021 and beyond.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ellis. I will see you in a few minutes.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for having us, Kamala. Thank you to all the panelists too for sharing. I'm looking forward to hearing from the other
Noran
panelists
coming
too.
up. Yes, thank you so much. Noran Price, we welcome you on stage. And as you come, we're going to give away something because our audience is so amazing. And last week, them cuss out Kamala and the JN Group lovingly to say why we're only giving away credits as if it's only Jamaican people alone on live class. So this week we have other types of prizes for those of you who are not based in Jamaica. So I have a question for, Sandra White says, great. I have a question for you. And the first one who will drop the correct answer in the chat will win for yourself an Amazon gift card from the JN family, okay, from the JN Group. And my question is, what is the name of Serika's foundation? What is the name of Serika's foundation? Very easy question. First person with the correct answer will win for themselves the Amazon gift card. So Brian Cuff has won for himself with quick fingers the gift card. Congratulations, Brian. We have your details, so we'll be in contact for your prize. Thank you, Renee, and all the others for participating. Noran, when you were on season 1, you schooled us with a very important distinction of single parent versus co-parent. Please walk us through how you make that differentiation.
All right, first things first, good evening to everybody online, my fellow panelists. I love the stories I've been hearing. Very powerful, very moving, from Serika to the Ellises. Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
All right, so as for my distinction, it's my personal distinction of single parent versus co-parent. Because I've had conversations where I hear people say, I'm a single mother, I'm a single father. My distinction is this: if you are not with the partner or the parent of the child, but both parents are still actively involved in the relationship, whether you think they're active enough or not, once there's activity, then that's a co-parent. You're not a single parent to me. Single parent is if one parent is doing 100% of taking care of the child. Now, I understand that each situation is different. Some people will say, oh, well, I give money when I can. If there's something there, then it's a co-parent. It may not be a good co-parent, but it's still co-parenting. But if you are the primary, secondary caregiver for this child, then you can call yourself a single parent if there's no activity or help. And this goes beyond emotions between the two parents. It could be a messy situation, but once both parents are involved, then they're co-parents, not single parents. So I'm a co-parent. I'm a dad who might be single, meaning not in a relationship, but it's not the same thing as a single parent to me.
Got it. So I love that distinction. And I see several of the ladies in the chat agreeing with that distinction. Dell and Trudy says, I agree 100%. So Noran, your daughter recently turned 16. That's a big number. Is it a scary
That's a big number. My princess is 16. And it maybe scared is not the right word, but I sat down and just went, wow, because there's still some, like her 6-7-year-old time, I can't remember. My brain cannot remember that far, but it's my princess. And, you know, I actually had somebody say to me, when you call her princess, you give her unrealistic expectations. And I kind of shut it down and said, hold on. I am in my daughter's life. That's my nickname for her.
Yes.
I will never raise her to think that she's a princess, meaning that she's entitled to anything, because two of the things I say to her whenever I can: one, nobody owes you anything, even if you think they do. And two, people change. So their behavior towards you will change depending on what you can do for them or just the situation. So princess is just my nickname. It's not me telling her that she is the greatest thing in sliced bread and she should be lauded. No, because that is not how I was raised. So
you keep it completely realistic with her. But I love the term. It's a term of affection. And it's an affirming term, so I'm here for it all day. Noran, I know that especially for men who are, managing co-parenting or single parenting, as the case might be, sometimes there can be that kind of anxiety or awkwardness as it relates to still being active in the dating scene, right? Should I even introduce a partner to my child or children? How soon do I do that? What about how the other partner, the child's other parent, my ex-partner, how will they feel? How will we manage all of these dynamics? What have been some of the major lessons for you that you want to share with those who may be having similar experiences now in co-parenting?
All right. Well, lessons-wise, everything comes down to the relationship between all parties involved. So I strive to make sure that my daughter has a realistic understanding as best as I can about relationships. We will talk to her about whatever it is that we think is important. If you are going to bring somebody around your child who is not the parent of that child, there are levels of respect that should be shown. Speak to the other parent to say, okay, listen, I am going out back into the dating scene. I have met somebody who I would like, who is going to be a part of my surroundings, and the child will see that. Let us assume that there's respect being shown on both parts, because if there isn't, that's where our problem is going to be. So always strive for respect first, because the fact is, we are no longer together. You are free to do what you want. I am free to do what I want, assuming that the situation is not messy, as I said. But it comes down to respect. It comes down to you telling the person, listen, I am moving on, and this person is going to be around my child. No, you have to make sure that whoever is around the child is somebody who is you think is going to be permanent, because the fact is, the revolving door situation can leave a bad impression, and it can also affect how the child thinks if you're not in dialogue. So, oh, that's auntie so-and-so, or that's uncle so-and-so. But if it gets serious, then you can say, okay, this is somebody I'm going to be in a relationship with. And of course, that conversation is going to change depending if the child is a toddler, if the child is a preteen, if the child is a teen. So it depends on the relationship you've established with the child from day one, which I would say, if you do that as best you can, when situations like dating come in, it's an easier, less awkward conversation than if you just drop it like that. So constant dialogue, leading by example, speaking about examples of other people who are doing that. Things like that help to create that foundation. So when the talk is going to happen, it's not this, but that's not mommy, but that's not daddy. So it's you being able to have awkward conversations, because sometimes even in explaining what's happening, you yourself might have some memories triggered that will affect exactly how you do it. But try not to make it seem like a fairy tale. In the real world.
Yes.
Children like they're real people.
Yes.
You're not going to necessarily give them every bit of information, but you still have to speak to them as if they have sense.
And Nora, I really want to add to that from maybe a therapy standpoint, is also do check-ins to see how it is that your children, what are their honest reactions, emotional reactions to what it is that is happening or that you're sharing with them. So it's not a one way where you just deliver the news and say, look, I met someone or whatever the case, and you just move on. We have to check in with children to see how it is that they feel, honestly, and to trust you to be a safe space to tell how they really feel.
Exactly. And I'm divorced. My ex has remarried. So my daughter now has a stepdad and a little brother. But there was never any indication of tension, because all parties involved were, of course, very mature and speak properly. So that she hasn't seen any kind of ugliness, because there was none, because there was always it was a clean break. Yes. Everybody moved on, and we kept in constant dialogue. So I think I said it in the last webinar I was on. Between her mother, myself, and her, we're not a union, but we're a unit. And we operate as such. So if there's discipline have to happen, we call each other and say, hey, she did this. How do you think we should handle this? Or this is how I handle it, and I was letting you know. So there's dialogue, and but everything is about respect. As a man, no matter how mature a man is, knowing that there's another man around his child will affect some man in some way. He may not show it outwardly, but it's gonna pinch, because if the relationship didn't end well, then your internal insecurities are gonna keep bubbling up, and you're gonna start comparing, is he better than me? It's a human nature thing. So again, your own maturity has a lot to do with it. What I have said to men is, if there's another man in the life of your child, you and that man really should have a relationship.
Ideally.
I'm not saying you're supposed to be bosom buddies and go hang out at the bar. If that's the case, well, great. But you should be able to see this man, visually shake his hand. Okay, I understand that you're there. You should be able to have a conversation, because the fact is, when you are not around, he might be the male in her life. So if her father and the other man in her life are fighting or at odds, or there's tension, that trickles down to the child. So as best you can, if the situation allows, men need to be able to talk to the man, whether it's a stepfather or the boyfriend of the ex,
partner,
saying to him, hey, listen, is there any discipline issues? Because sometimes the child might not respond to the new person and be disrespectful to mommy's new boyfriend because he's not daddy. Some men might say that and say, oh, well, yeah, because I'm the father. No. You need to tell that child, hey, that man is in the house as an adult. Unless he disrespects you, you show respect.
Yes.
And again, this is kind of hoping that is a not messy situation, because that's where I'm talking from. But even if there comes ugliness, that's when everybody needs to be able to sit down and talk. Because at the end of the day, children aren't stupid. They can see tension. They can feel and sense tension. So therefore, might as well you just talk about it and get it out the way than try to put it under the rug like, oh, everybody's fine, because they're not.
And they always know.
They always know. So everything is painted with a brush of respect, first and foremost. And if that is dealt with and maintained, it might make things like new people in the relationship easier.
Right now, Noran, the chat is blowing up with so many exclamation points. I'm seeing Tamara says it's a whole word with about 4 exclamation points. Tracy Ann says a big man taught this. This is really what needs to take place. Judy Ann says this needs to be broadcast on radio and TV and everywhere. Seriously. And Samantha says, I like his maturity. I wish a lot of men would reason like this. So as we knew, Noran, right? You have some views and some practices which we absolutely admire. And we want more men and more parents to hear this.
And I will say, don't ever think that I'm saying this is easy to do, because it's not your nature. Sometimes we hear this kind of advice and we say, yeah, do that. But remember, some people have been grown up in a way that this is all they know. So for them to change it around, they have to see good examples of it. Yes. And they have to be willing to adjust their own mechanisms to try something different. So it's not easy.
Absolutely. And this is why I must always give love to the JN group for creating this space where we can literally learn and relearn and unlearn the things that can make, beautiful families across Jamaica. Noran, you are a girl dad, and I saw Brian Cup dropping it in the chat. He's also a proud girl dad, right?
Yes.
Let me see the hands of all the girl dads on the call this evening. I've heard some men reference the fact that being a dad of a girl changes them in some ways. Was that your experience? And if so, how has it changed you?
Well, it changed me because I grew up in a house of all boys. So it was different being the father of a girl, but I took to it very easily because it was just me. And I will say, I've never been the type to, he's out there womanizing, he has a girl now, all of a sudden, it wasn't like that. It is the same tenets I grew up with. I simply just passed them on. I didn't unlearn anything. A matter of fact, growing up with 4 boys in the house, we were all very mannerly, very respectful, because that's what we saw growing up. Because both my parents, they've been married 49 years.
Wow.
So, they drilled that down into us about being respectful. So when I had a girl, it was just, all right, I'm no Papa Bear, and I'm just now going to be protective of my little cub.
Yes.
But I made sure that she had a realistic understanding of the world as early as possible.
Excellent.
So she, I visited a friend of mine. She had a son who was my daughter's age, and her son and his friend were playing swords. And if you know, when boy picnic play a sword fight, it's
rough.
Fenke thing. And she wanted to play. So I said, go ahead. And she went in and they did not let up. They were swinging and everything. And she came back and she was crying, saying they're not taking their time with me. And I pulled her aside. I said, listen to me. Those boys, yes, they could have played softer because you're a girl, but that's their choice. You can't go into their game and demand that they change how they are for you. You either learn to fight like them or don't fight. Because at the end of the day, while it would be nice for them to take time with you, they don't owe you that. So you trying to throw a tantrum so they can change how they play, that's not how I'm growing you. Know how to either I can deal with it or I can't, and I move on. So that was a lesson that really stuck with her.
You had a whole life class with her in that conversation.
In that one small conversation.
Yes.
Nobody owes you anything.
Yes, because I was about to jump over into the issue of how you're preparing your princess cub for dating, right, in the real world. And I feel like that lesson you dropped on her there is applicable to relationships 199%.
Absolutely.
Because if he's a man and he plays in a particular way, don't try to go in there and try to change the way he plays. Either you play the game like he does, or you do not engage, right?
Exactly. The balance I try to strike with her. And fortunate, I have her parents on both sides, both her mother's side and her father's side, her parents themselves. We always try to show her that, listen, you are special, you are wonderful. But as Jamaican people say, you know more than nobody, and nobody know more than you.
Yes.
So I drill in that humility in her, but also know your value and know what you will and will not tolerate. So it's a juggling act. And she grew up on cartoons. I introduced her to the cartoons that I watched as a kid, and that's how we have our little nerd fest. So when we see each other, we sit around and watch cartoons. But I brought that to her because I want her to know when you're with a man, you're supposed to be protected and respected. But it doesn't mean that you're going to leave all your wills open and you're at their behest. So we have conversations. She sees how I am with other females, both related to me and not related to me, and she realizes it's the same. It's all respect. It's all, hi, how are you doing? Good morning. Let me help you with that. So she knows what to do, but then she will take my helpful nature when she's out with her friends and she becomes a caregiver. And I've seen it with my own two eyes. So fortunately, all the trappings and the lessons have gone through. She hasn't reached the dating stage yet, to the best of my knowledge, because like I said, she's abroad. But again, I will sit her and talk to her about boys, and she still gets that little girl, Daddy, what are you talking about? Stop it, stop it, stop it. Which is fine for me, but she's not oblivious. She's not walking around with a false sense. I know that there's going to come a time when she likes boys. And we have the kind of relationship, both her mother and I, individually and together, that, hey, if you want to talk to me about a boy, come talk to me. You're still going to get the Papa Bear standing over him when I see him, but if you like a boy, let me know. I went through that, liking girls at a young age, at your age, so there's always room to talk for whenever she's ready to talk.
I love that. Noran, how would you describe your parenting style? Because I think some parents probably don't understand fully how they, what your style is. How would you describe yours?
To be honest, it encompasses old world and new world. Old world meaning, like I said, growing up in a house full of boys, we didn't speak, we grunted at each other. That's how we communicated. But of course, like I said, it's all respectful. So I've had parents who I don't know, as well as parents that I do know, come to me and say, oh my God, your daughter is amazing. She's so friendly, she's polite, she's helpful, and she's not doing it to curry favor. That is just her natural personality. But she understands that if she's getting loud and she sees me go, then she knows, okay, I'm getting too loud. If she gets a little, maybe I get a, what we would call, not forthright, but maybe a little cheeky in her response, I'd be like, hey, let's not forget. And it's immediately squashed. Because again, we ramp. verbally with each other, but it's all respectful. So I have the new way of letting her talk, but I also have the old way of, listen, you are a child. I am the parent. I will respect you and I will show you respect, but understand you do have a particular role to play and you will play it.
Yes.
There's not a, she will argue if she really wants something and she will argue the point, but she knows after a while if it's like, listen, this is the end of the conversation. She's like, okay.
Argument done.
Argument done. But it's not cow down. I've never beat her like our parents talk. I've never had to beat her because just something as simple as stop that, or I'm not happy with what you did. She used to punish herself. If she did something and she got a bad grade and I'd get upset with her, she'd punish herself. She'd put her own toys away and say, okay, I'm doing homework for the next 8 hours because of how she was grown. So again, I'm very happy that between her grandparents and myself and her mom and her mom's parents, everybody formed this community around her because she was the first girl in the family.
Ah.
So, and she was the first grandchild. So that's easy to spoil.
Yes.
But it didn't happen. So
Nora,
I'm very happy about that.
I'm so happy to hear it. This is so heartwarming to hear you speak like this and for us to be sharing these practical tips and strategies with parents. Christine says, I wish my ex could hear you speak because after 7+ years, we can't have a civil conversation and it affects my children so much, but there's nothing I can do. And I've seen and heard so many parents talk about this challenge that they're having. So I'm glad that you're able to at least break down some of what can help to cultivate that kind of culture of maturity. It's not about me, you know, it's about the well-being of the child or children, for example. And so we just want to encourage those who are watching, especially the fathers. Fatherhood is a very serious undertaking. It's a big undertaking, Noran. And we love that we have the likes of yourself and, you know, Ian, IT Ellis, to be sharing with our participants and for those who will see this afterward in terms of how it is that they can better tackle this. I see Sharon Holness says that her high school colleagues speaks highly of Noran and his parenting style. He's an amazing dad, setting an example for others. Keep it up, Noran. And we share the same sentiments. Noran,
thank you very much.
We thank you for coming on, right? And just dropping so much wealth into this conversation. We're going to pause now to jump over to the Wilkies, and we're going to have Noran come back towards the end with at least one other gem, Noran, of wealth and power for parenting. So stay tuned. He's going to be right back in a couple of minutes. Thank you so much, Noran. We'd love to welcome on stage now Devon and Sophia Wilkie, and they're going to be talking to us about a very new word that the Jane Group has coined for this life class, the issue of otherhood. So we've had Serika talking about motherhood. We've had IT and Noran talk to us about fatherhood, and we want to segue into a conversation now about otherhood. Sophia and Devon, are you able to turn on your video? We'd love to see your beautiful faces and just talk through how it is that you have been able to engage in parenting from a different angle. Hi there. So welcome to the life class space. You're muted. Welcome, Devon and Sophia. You're smiling so bigly. What are you doing?
Yeah, we're good. We're happy to be here. And I'm glad to the rest of panelists. And, yes.
I see Brian Cup bigging you up in the comments and saying, family!
yeah, Brian, big up to yourself, Brian. You know, nice couple, Brian and his wife.
Absolutely. So Devon and Sophia, we could not have had, closed out this conversation without jumping over to talk about different ways in which people who want to start families can have families. And I hear your family member there making herself known to the life class community. Devon and Sophie in particular made the decision to adopt a beautiful baby girl. And we want to talk to them about what led them to that journey of adoption. Sophie, what was it that moved?
Okay, so we had been trying, you've met the love of your life, young and
still
married.
Still young.
And so we were trying to have kids and it just was not working. We've tried everything, including in vitro, and it just was not working. And we had grown some of our family member kids and so on, and so we still have love. You want to call one your very own. Yes. And so we took the decision to apply to adopt.
But you can imagine, after being married for so many years, young age, 24, 25 come, 26 come, 27, he's about, God, next year, 28 come, I'm about, Jesus. And sometimes, to tell you this, when you even go to church sometime, and like come out to like Father's Day,
yes.
I want a son and I want a baby. And he just now, I'm just like, God, what happened? People really create something. Hey, young people now get, what happened to you? What happened to you? There's some younger folks now who look. You say, but Jesus, what happened? They must say, boy, maybe I don't have no faith. I say, but God, man, you have some people that road and I serve up, and not even one. Hey, God, what happened? I tell you, he answered the call.
Yes.
Call.
And I want to just interject there that for so many people, there is a pressure that comes from the outside community.
Oh, God, man.
Where people, as Jamaica people say, them put their mouth on you and start to watch people womb.
But tell you this, it came a time in our life when it all happened, I said, but Father, I look at my wife, I said, wifey, you're more precious to me than 10 sons, you know. So if it happen, I love you, see me until the day my eye close. But note this, I won't embarrass you, you and I, until the end.
Wow.
God answer the prayer. And we are here now, you know, giving thanks.
Yes.
You know, the bundle are dry. You can see one of the teeth there.
I see the love and I hear the love. And Sophia, walk us through what the actual journey was like to moving from decision into embracing your beautiful baby girl in your arms.
It was quite traumatic for me. I remember one doctor appointment. Devon wasn't there with me, and I was up by the university hospital. And I tell you, it's not a very nice news to hear when you have tried everything and then the doctor tells you, you know, no, it's not gonna work, or no, it has not worked. They would have harvested the eggs and whatever, and then they give you that news.
Yes.
Like a bolt of lightning, man. It's really traumatic. Go through. I found myself, you know, just repeating no, like I'm trying to drum out what the doctor was saying.
And I know that in vitro is highly expensive. So I can imagine also the frustration financially. I would put so many resources into this and then not getting the outcome.
No, but tell you this, we were talking about a donor. The time it was like 10,000 euros at the time.
Yes.
And it must work. So that's taking still a mess, but God. 10,000, yes, we come baby.
That's over $1 million Jamaican dollars, right?
Yes, it's quite costly. Yeah.
And I'd love if any members of the audience family who have tried alternative methods to starting a family, if you're open to sharing what your journey has been like, we'd love to see your comments in the chat. What was the timeline like, Mr. and Mrs. Wilkie, from, you know, decision to adopt into actually, you know, having the baby? And
might have been about 8 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
You see right there that there is definitely need for some improvement where that is concerned. Like 8 years.
Definitely.
That's a long time.
Long
Very
time.
much.
Long time.
Yes. So talk us through now so we can celebrate with you. When did you welcome baby girl into the Wilkie family, and what was that experience like?
Oh my goodness. It was August 7th, 2018. Yes. And we actually saw her the same day we picked her up.
Wow.
We had not met her before. We had not seen her before. But I mean, as soon as we left Spanish Town to Montego Bay, that's where she was. The first time we were seeing her, and I mean, it was love at first sight.
Beautiful.
Yes. I would encourage everybody who is having challenges, or even if you have your own and you want to expand your family, that you should consider adoption. I mean, it just fits. It just fits. She looks like her dad, and I am the fifth wheel.
The fifth, not even the third.
It's the two of them. Yeah, man. The chemistry is there. It's there. And again, I'd encourage anybody, to adopt.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that piece, Sophie, because I know that some persons have that fear of saying, will I bond with a child who I didn't, carry in my womb or came out of my body? Will I bond with them as much as I would with an adopted child? But here are Devon and Sophie Wilkie telling us, listen, the chemistry, it just fits.
Yes.
And your daughter just fit right into your family unit.
Just right into the family. She just fit in. And I mean, we go out, and I mean, it's just like my own child. I don't consider her, outside.
No, definitely.
And she's keeping you busy even right now on life class, which we love.
Oh my goodness.
Hello, beautiful.
Hi.
What a beautiful blessing. I see Serika saying she's so happy for you guys. And Shampoo says happy for you both. And Brian is proud of both of you. And we are also proud of you here, on this life class journey. Thank you for agreeing to come and share your story. Right?
Yes, thank you.
And I know that you are both somewhat shy, so I appreciate you saying yes to the invitation. And I think many persons who are watching now live or recorded will hear the testimony, and hear that, listen, it may not come in the traditional way, but otherhood is a real thing. There's motherhood, there can be fatherhood, and there can be otherhood. And thank you for highlighting the other methods like IVF, for example.
Yes.
Some people utilize donors, whether sperm donors or egg donors. And some persons also utilize surrogacy, where you can have somebody else actually bring the child that came out of you and your partner's body in their womb for you if you're not able to do so.
But that is not available in Jamaica, the surrogacy.
Well, as far as I know, it's available, but we don't have the legal framework yet.
The legal, framework, right.
But yes, but there's so many entities. There's one entity in particular that they can check out, which is the Hugh Winter Fertility Management Unit.
Yeah, that's where we were.
Yes. For those who are watching who may want resources to even start the conversation, Yes. Thank you so much for sharing. We have a couple of questions for all our panelists. So we're going to invite everybody back on stage now. And I see Christine Cole says, I have friends who have adopted and you would know the difference. So guys, just enjoy your blessing. So beautiful.
Definitely, we're enjoying it.
Thank you for sharing and thank you for coming. We have a question in the box, everyone, and we would not want Marvia's question to go unanswered. Marvia is asking, how do I deal with a 15-year-old boy without a father present in terms of how do I discipline him? And I'm going to ask Noran to give some feedback on this question, if you would.
Oh, 15 years old.
Yes,
and
without a father.
He's already headstrong already and could even be disrespectful. So meeting it physically, honestly, would probably not work. There's a time where maybe it would work, but it just depends on how that child is.
Yes.
First thing I would say is try the path of least resistance. Try okay, hey, I don't think you like me. Tell me why. Sometimes those direct questions will kind of bypass the I'm fine, and just kind of walk off. So sometimes tackle them with that direct question of, I get the feeling you don't like me, or you've told me you don't like me, tell me why. Do you think I'm going to steal your parent? Do you think I'm this? Honestly, try as many different ways as you can before you write it off as I can't do anything. At 15, that child, you can't tell him anything. In his mind, he knows everything about the world and he will not take any talking, but maybe to disarm him by saying, I don't understand why you don't like me. Can you tell me? Force them to actually respond. And when they hear themselves say some things, it might register a little differently than if they have it just up in the chest, not saying it. So
absolutely.
Hopefully it doesn't get physical. I mean, growing up, I saw where physical actually changed the direction of a relationship, meaning my friend had a young child he had when he was a teen. Child grew up and decided, Daddy can't talk to me. And he put boxing gloves on the boy and he put them on and said, let's go. You clearly want to get some frustration out about me, let's go. And after the real slobber knocker, it changed the tide of their relationship. Now, I'm not saying that's what this person should do, but try something. That doesn't work, try something else. But at the same time, understand when you are beating a dead horse, because unfortunately, there are some realistic cases where there's nothing more to do other than wait on them to come around if they ever come around. So measure it, try different angles, try different disarming tactics, and then see which yields the best results.
And I love the first suggestion that you gave, Noran, in terms of reasoning. Let's talk. Let's be honest. Let's be direct. And it's important for the parent to not respond defensively, whatever they hear, right?
And talking isn't really popular among some of the younger people because either they're trying to be too cool or they don't even know what they want to say. They don't want to sound stupid, so they'd rather have said, "I just saw," or find some way to kind of, just pretend like it's nothing.
Yes.
But sometimes you have to stick with them and say, "No, talk to me." Matter of fact, let you and I go and do something and you talk to me. Let's go outside. Let's take a drive. You go drive down the road. I'll be in the passenger seat. Let's talk. Find a way to get them off their defensive tower, and maybe you find an in to go further.
The connection. Let's see what kind of roads we can build to connect with each other, as opposed to, assuming and constantly playing the blame game. It's important to try to find some ways of building that connection. I love that. I would love to ask our tech team, in preparation for the end of our class this evening, to launch our post-class questions or poll questions so that we can get how much our viewers have gotten from class and what it is that they're experiencing and feeling and thinking about in terms of parenting as we're about to close. But I want to, while the audience is responding to that, I have another giveaway from the JN group, because this is the JN Circle, life class, #JN Cares. And so I'd love to ask the first person who can correctly answer this question will get an Amazon gift card. And the question is, name two, in one text, in one post in the chat, name two alternatives, right? In terms of otherhood for starting a family. Name two alternate ways in which persons can start a family, separate and apart from coming together with a partner and having a child. And and I'm seeing a lot of comments coming. Mr. and Mrs. Wilkie, you can't enter. And so I see Charm Wholeness has responded. She says surrogacy and IV. I think she was going to type IVF. I'm going to ask IT and Karen, can you please come on video for us? Serika, do you think we should gift Charm do you think we should give it to her? She says surrogacy and IV. She didn't say IVF. Do you think we should give it to her?
You know how Jamaicans are. We always leave off something. You're lucky she never said VF.
Charm Wholeness is our winner because Serika has spoken up on your behalf. So Charm Wholeness has won for yourself an Amazon gift card from our beautiful JN Group family. Congratulations, Charm. Send an email to myjncircle@jngroup.com for us to be able to contact you to collect your prize. Don't forget, you have to contact us so we can send it to you. All right? Thank you so much. I'm going to ask Serika, who started first, to just give the mothers in particular who are watching one final piece of encouragement, support on the very difficult journey, especially for those who are trying to balance, career and motherhood. What would you say to encourage them?
I would say definitely take time with yourself. If I can tell you, I'm currently, I'm the managing director for the company. I'm in law school. I have the charity balancing and I have the 2 kids. So 2 things I want to say to you: allow yourself to get help. I know it looks cute when they're saying, "Boy, you're balancing everything, you're a super mom," but it's not cute when you're home alone. The truth is you do need help. We can't do this alone. So if it's a friend, allow your husband or your partner to step in and assist you. Second of all, readjust your thinking in a time such as this. The same thing that you used to do in 2019, the same balance that you used to strike in 2019 is not possible right now because of the situation that we're in. So adjust your expectation of yourself so that you can, be a better parent to your children, because they also need help adjusting their expectation of themselves. And until you can adjust yours and come to terms with the fact that, you're not going to be in tip-top shape right now, then you can have the conversation with them to help them to get there. And, you all can just do this together.
Thank you so much, Serika. So much wealth in that share. I'm going to jump over now to the Ellises. For the married parents who are watching Life Class, what is one sterling piece of advice that you would give to them in terms of creating healthy examples for their children? Karen, or IT, go for it, IT.
Well, this cannot be overemphasized. But let me say this quickly. Noran, really admire and respect how you deal with parenting as a father. It's like you have about a dozen children,
Just the one so far.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But I think I said it the last time, I'm saying it again. It's not what we teach them and tell them to do that they do. It's how we live in front of them that they do. So once you recognize that, you have to start remember that we are models for them. So stop complaining when you see certain babies come out. Ask yourself, what did I model for them? Another takeaway I want to say to a person that said last time is we are parents. We're not their friends. Try and draw the line very carefully. Sometimes because we want to be popular with the children, we cannot strike friendship. No. And that is why some parent-to-child relationships get broken down and disrespect stepped in when they feel like they are your friends. No. As much as we have our daughters live good, they know. And listen, I can say this loudly. As a comedian, them know say, me not joke. But me nice. I love them. Strike the nice line. So it's very important to recognize that. Two things. You're not their friends, and model the life you want them to be.
Excellent. I'm going to thank you so much. Karen, you have a gem for us?
Just to add the trust, have that communication with them that they so trust you that they can come to you with anything. Yes.
Thank you so much for that. We could not have left without those two. I'm going to jump over to Sophie, and I'm going to ask Sophie to give a final word of advice and support and encouragement to those women in particular who may be getting the questions and the pressure about when you're going to have a baby, when you're going to. What would you say to those women? Sophie, you're muted.
Ensure that whatever you're doing, it will make you happy. That's first and foremost. Focus on your happiness. You're going to have the naysayers and whatever, block them out and know that you're doing this for you and what makes you happy, what makes your relationship work. We had all different kind of things coming into your head and thing, but just know that what you're doing, you're making your family complete and you'll be okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And Noran already shared out some wealthy words of advice on tonight's class. So we're going to throw over to our poll questions to close out class this evening. We asked, has your mood improved since the start of Life Class? 83% of you said yes, and we're grateful to have had that impact on you. Question number 2 was, I feel more prepared to consider alternate routes to becoming a parent. And a combined 87% of you said yes, and that's very encouraging. That was a part of our mandate for this evening's class. That's how we introduced the word otherhood for those of you who may be having challenges or want to expand your family. Question 3, I am now more aware of where I can improve as a parent. 87% of you said yes. So panelists, gonna clap on yourself, gonna do the work tonight. Thank you all for contributing to this amazing poll result from our class. And Question 4, I feel more equipped to manage co-parenting relationships for the well-being of my child or children. 78% of you say yes, and 20% of you say sort of. That's a good and very encouraging sign from class as well. And finally, I expected what I received what I expected from this class. And let me tell you how many of you said either totally or mostly. 100% of you said you received what you expected from this class. Ellis's, Wilkie's, Sterling's, and Mr. Price, and a big up on yourself. Thank you so much for your time, your passion, your energy, your flair, your wisdom, your vulnerability. I am so much more wealthy coming out of this space this evening. Thank you all. Catch the replay on the JN Group's Facebook and YouTube pages. Share with your friends and invite them to come next week when we're going to talk about Mars versus Venus. The man and woman argument going to be hot in the place next week. So
Yes.
Bring friends and come back, Noran. I see you're raising the hand praising God already.
I will be there. I will be there.
I'm going to come and watch. And anytime you're ready for those two young ladies, let me know, because I want to watch them now. They're going to watch me.
All right, all right.
ITY, I thank you.
I thank you
I love
too.
it. And I thank all of you so much. Much love to JN Group. Much love to the viewing audience. They are amazing every single week. Thank you so much. Much love from me. Until next week, Wednesday, have an amazing week. Treat your family good. Much love and blessings, and take care of yourself.
Excellent, Kamala.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, IT. I appreciate that. Much love to the two ladies, Nastasia and Najali. Big up on yourself.
Yes.
We'll see you soon.
We'll tell them. Yes.
Blessings, everybody. Be well. Wilkies.
Yes, sir.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.